Morning ish. Yeah, morning sun's in my eyes. You have more than one. Um, yeah, it's a beautiful day. Feels like spring out here, and it's second week of January or whatever. So, uh, my friend who came back to the sober house, is doing all right. Still kind of settling in. Uh, a lot of times, addicts and alcoholics when we first get clean again, I've said it before, and we get this onslaught of emotions and thoughts and everything else. It can be overwhelming at times, especially when you're not quite sure how to utilize the tools you've learned to properly analyze, process, and you know, uh, yeah, I can't even speak this morning, and deal with all of that. Um, it's funny. I don't usually get to see the seeds I plant really bear fruit. Um, and this is one of those cases where I'm getting to see it. There were some things she said to me last night that I just internally had to smile because I thought, yeah, I said the same thing to you about a year ago, but okay. Not necessarily in those exact words, but it's clicking now for him, you know. Um, and it's the same thing with one of my other friends who I've been talking to for a while now. It's nice, makes it worth it. When they start to see the multiple layers of meanings and intention behind some of the things I tell them, say, point out. So, speaking of which, I listen to these sci-fi stories on YouTube. I don't know why I'm so into them. I just really A lot of them are the same over and over, but I came across one the other night, and the general theme of it was, someone who basically had been shunned their whole life by their family, friends, and because of outside appearances or whatever, because they didn't meet the status quo. And it, gets to a point where this person has to make a decision that is either go through, we'll just say, painful transformation to adapt to a point of what their friends and family, in this particular case, species, want them to do in order to barely be accepted or to choose themselves. And it was a really good lesson. People talk about healthy boundaries and stuff all the time, and a lot of the examples they give is they always give these very harsh reactions. You don't have to be mean or harsh to set a healthy boundary. You really don't. As I said before in another video, if said person continues to, push that boundary, okay, sometimes, yeah, you do got to become mean and harsh. I get it, you know, but that should not always be your go-to reaction. in my experience, if you're setting boundaries with somebody or something like that, it's usually because that particular person or that interaction is showing some kind of self-centeredness or selfishness in some way, shape, or form. There's no reciprocation there. Um, and if you react knee-jerkly and harshly in response, you're basically displaying the same level of selfishness, in my opinion. But like I said, if they continue to push, okay, that's one thing. But you can choose yourself. Oftentimes, it means you have to give up a lot of the external validations. And that's where people struggle. Oh man, what will people think of me? People won't like me, blah, 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 blah. Really? Who cares? Do you like yourself? Do you feel fulfilled? Are you happy? Are you truly content and happy? It's like with I've talked about, materialism and not the political, geopolitical standpoint, but in one's personal life, how a lot of people get hung up on, oh, the car you drive and clothes you wear and so forth and so on. And yeah, I will say there's, a certain level of measured success to a lot of that. But once again, in my experience, most people who have all of that stuff, it's just another form of external validation. And most of the people I know who had the high paying job and the car and the house and the picket fence and the 2.5 kids and the dog and the whole American dream, fucking miserable. Not all, but most. And when I say miserable, I mean unfulfilled. You know, they have all of those things, but they would spend all of their time just maintaining them so that they can look impressive to somebody that they're never even going to speak to, somebody they're probably going to look down on. What's the point of that? Oh, that's right, to make you feel better about yourself. Because for some reason, this equates in our modern society, that means I'm worth something. No, it doesn't. It does mean you dedicated yourself to an ideal. And that's worth something to an extent. But it also means you're just going to constantly seek that. And that's something I struggle with. I need to. That's something I guess I've kind of rebelled against most of my life. Probably because even at a very young age, I was bullied a lot. I wasn't quite what you call a normal kid. You know, I was very intelligent and had a smart mouth. I got picked on a lot. I was also really tiny. I was a small kid. So maybe that's why I was never, real good at sports or any of that shit. Moved around a lot as a kid. So I had to learn how to make friends quick. I don't know. I could chalk it up to a lot of things, but the point is, at some point in my life, I learned pretty early on, the old cliche about not judging a book by its cover. And I truly try to do that. Do I struggle with it sometimes? Of course. Absolutely. We all do. You're going to see people out there that you find very attractive, and you're going to see people out there you don't find attractive for whatever reason or another. Doesn't mean they're bad people. Doesn't mean they're not worth your time. Maybe it's just where I'm at in my life. Um, you know, one of the things my friend recently has come across, and I've said this many, many times in these videos and others, people are mirrors. The things you like and dislike and the behaviors and stuff you recognize in somebody are the same things you recognize in yourself. And this happened to him the other day while he was in group interacting with somebody. It occurred to him, he said, wow, this guy's like gone through a lot of the same stuff and blah, blah, blah. There was that recognition, that camaraderie, whatever, and it kind of put a light bulb off in his head. And I just sat there and I listened. I said, yeah. I said, how many times have you heard me say that? He's like, what? And that's exactly what I said. I said that people are mirrors, Chris. You will, all the things you like and dislike in someone else and all the behaviors you recognize, I said, it's because you do the same things in yourself. And it kind of dawned on him. I said, it makes more sense now, doesn't it? He's like, yeah, it does. I'm like I said, that's what I mean by getting to see the seeds I plant bear fruit. He's finally kind of, in his own words, taking the blinders off this time, which is good. Good thing. But I see guys around the house do it all the time. They a lot of ego in that house. You see guys bumping heads all the time, and it's funny to me because to me it's just plain as day. It's like the reason they're bumping heads is because because they're very similar. This kind of stuff, and they just don't see it. You know, you get these guys in there, and yeah, they're going through the routines, they're going through their group therapy and all this other stuff, but they're still thinking the same way and they're still doing the same basic habits. They're still essentially in that addict mindset and they don't understand why they're not really progressing or why they're not getting certain privileges and this kind of stuff. And you try to point it out to them, and of course, they immediately get defensive. You know, it's just like, okay, nothing changes, nothing changes. Don't be afraid to choose yourself authentically. Don't be afraid to be kind. Now, that does not mean people please to the point of a detriment. People are going to take kindness for granted. It's just human nature, I think. We all take things we have for granted. You don't really truly appreciate stuff until you don't have it. Like at the house. Our plumbing has been fucked up for like a week now. It's finally going to get finished today. Uh, all these supposed grown ass men. And I've never heard so much whining and bitching in my life. I swear to God. All these supposed, hardcore alcoholics and addicts and stuff who, they've had a hard life and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Bitching about having to go outside to a porta potty. Are you kidding me? Once again, you don't appreciate the things you don't have. You don't appreciate the things you have until you don't have them. So you know what I mean. Take away your indoor plumbing. See how much you appreciate it. Trust me. Be grateful for that kind of stuff. You know, until you're homeless living under a bridge, guilty, and you got to walk a mile just to take a shit. Trust me. And I'm by no means recommending anyone go out. It is a very humbling experience. Very eye-opening experience. You want a humbling experience? Go panhandle. Yeah, that'll humble you real quick. You get to see the true nature of people real fast. Quite honestly, it's a miracle that I'm still nice and kind to people out there. I've had people spit on me, cuss me out. I had a guy try to piss on me one time. I've had garbage thrown in my face. I can't, man. The amount of verbal abuse I've been through, yeah, yeah, it is. I astonish myself sometimes at the amount of resilience and strength that I do. So anyway, I'm still waking up, so it's kind of a babble. But yeah, have a blessed day.